one of the good fellas of this program. I've known you, sir, for many, many years. I was at the first ever Jim Mora Celebrity Golf Classic when you held it as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Now it's the 9th annual Jim Mora Celebrity Golf Classic, raised over $500,000 for the Jim Mora Count on Me Family Foundation. Jim Mora of UCLA football.
Hi, Rich.
How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. So,
you look nice.
You know what? I dressed up in my Goodfellas.
You look like you fit right into the.
Do I?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Staten Island guy. I'd have to dress the part.
Looks good.
Because I don't know if I got that good fella in me.
I think you do.
You do?
Yeah, I think the
you cut me off
trunk scene with the
Billy
Liotta,
Billy Bats in the trunk.
Yep, and Joe Pesci and yeah.
Are you a fan of that movie?
Oh, who's not a fan of that movie? What guy is not a fan of that movie?
Yeah, I mean I've watched it multiple times. It's one of those drop the remote movies.
We're staying here, honey.
Yeah.
You can go in the other room if you want to watch Dance Moms.
So for the Count on Me Foundation, Family Foundation, what is that in support of?
Rich, that's
Coach?
In support of at-risk children, in-need children, children from low socioeconomic backgrounds. It's really just an opportunity to kind of reach back, pull people forward, give them a chance, empower children. We're in Atlanta, we're in Seattle, we're actually now in North Carolina, and now we're in the LA area. And so we've kind of kept it going now for 10 years, and our golf tournament's our primary fundraiser. Like you said, we raised well over $500, almost $600,000 actually on Monday, and so much generosity, so many people coming out and playing, these celebrities, our sponsors that come back year after year because it is a great cause, and Shannon does an amazing job with it. Yeah,
your wife has got an energy that is absolutely...
it's off the charts.
Off the charts,
it
is.
Yeah.
It's infectious.
Yeah, and it's fun to see these guys, these athletes come out and play and have fun and loosen up. And they're so gracious. We had 6 Hall of Famers out there, plus LaDainian and Tomlinson. We had an amazing backfield now, okay? Jerome Bettis, Marcus Allen, LaDainian Tomlinson, Maurice Jones-Drew, Deshaun Foster. I don't want to forget anyone. I think I'm forgetting
Well, you
one.
forgot the one who won the golf tournament. I can't believe it. Lorenzo Neal.
Lolo.
How did Lo Neal win a golf tournament? Is that because he had a lot of candy and then he had a great team around him?
Yeah, but it's
when
fun.
I saw that Lorenzo Neal won your golf tournament, I'm like, check that man's eraser on the pencil.
I know. Lorenzo's great. He's I coached him when he first came in the league, so I have a history with all these guys, and it's just fun to have him come back.
Well, he's a character. I mean, of ultimate characters.
Oh, he's the best, and people love to play golf with him because he keeps it fun.
I'm here with Jim Mora of UCLA football here on the Rich Eisen Show. Did anybody check the golf balls to see if they were prepared to everyone's liking and they were up to stuff?
Troy Aikman. Troy, Drew Bledsoe. We had good quarterbacks now. Troy Aikman, Drew Bledsoe, then Cade, Rick Neuheisel played, and then a couple of old UCLA quarterbacks, Matt Stevens and Wayne Cook. So we had a pretty good contingent.
Well, it was also my way to segue into asking you what you think of all this.
Deflategate?
Yeah.
You know, Rich, I go back and forth. I think there's a rule in place that we all have to honor, but I know this, that every quarterback I've ever been around has a particular way they want the football prepared. And it's interesting because in this game, what we're after is points and excitement, right? And the ball in the air and great acrobatic catches and great throws into tight coverage, and we want points. And yet, we're going to limit what the guy who's most important to all of that, the quarterback, can do with the football. So I think that there's some way to get around it without, saying, hey, you can play with a Nerf ball if you want, or you can play with a balloon if you want. But I know every quarterback has a different way they want the ball. Matt Hasselbeck used to take his football, he'd put it in the dryer with some towels and a piece of AstroTurf, and they'd warm it up that way, and they'd scuff it up a little bit just to his liking. And it was legal, completely legal, but I know every quarterback is that way. So,
but that's why everybody believes that Tom Brady had to know if something crazy illegal was being done to these footballs.
Here's where I don't know if he did or not. I like Tom. Tom works out at UCLA. I see him all the time. I think he has integrity. I think he's a good guy. I don't think Tom would want a guy to take a football away from him, take a certain amount of air out without Tom having the chance to say, yeah, I like it right there. And I know Tom was not in that locker room when if they took air out or said, yeah, that's okay, I like this one.
So he'd want, if a pin was taken to it, he'd want to
He'd want to see it again. He'd want to touch it again. He'd want it in his hands again and say, you took too much out or you put too much in. That's my opinion. I don't know that. I just, knowing Tom and knowing how particular he is, I think that's what he would want. He would want to touch that football again and say, yeah, that's the one. That's where I want it.
I mean, we have talked about this ad nauseum for weeks and months. You're the first person to make that point.
Well, I've been around a long time, an old guy now, right? I've seen a lot of this stuff.
Well, let's take a 60-second break, and when we come back, I don't know if you saw what happened in the Milwaukee Brewers Atlanta Braves game last night. We'll talk about that and whether that is the same standard. Rosengate. Or actually, it's sunscreen in Rosengate.
Sun Rosengate.
Yeah, he wears his he wears his sunblock and rosin at night. I don't know if you have that song too.
Windy.
It's chilly and windy, or chilly and windy gate. We're here with Jim Mora of UCLA football. We'll chat with him more, Mora, when we come back. This is not the Corey Hart who used to be on the Brewers, right?
No.
This is the one who sang about wearing his
yeah.
sunglasses at night. Now Will Smith wears his sunscreen and rosin at night. Okay, it's very difficult to keep all this straight. That's why I got Jim Mora right here on the Rich Eisen show. And as I mentioned earlier, that's what I thought of. That the doctoring of the baseball, that the thing that got me is that the one who's being accused of wrongdoing is not the guy who had the sunscreen and rosin. It's the manager who called him out on it, because apparently that's an unwritten rule in baseball. And I'm wondering if this whole Deflategate messing with footballs is the same thing or not. Jim,
I think
where do you stand on that?
just, I don't think it. Like I said, I think the league wants points. They want exciting plays.
Mm-hmm.
If you want that, then you want a ball in the hands of the quarterback, the most important player on the field, to feel how he wants it to feel so he can throw it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it a little bit differently than a pitcher. A pitcher is going against a batter who's trying to hit it. I'm throwing a football to a receiver. It just seems different to me.
Mm-hmm.
But there are rules, and I believe that if the rule's in place, then we all have to respect that rule and play within those rules. I know this, that every athlete in every sport, in every event, is looking for an advantage. They are great competitors, and they will bend those rules to get that advantage. To what extent they'll bend them, or will they break them, then that becomes a problem.
Jim Mora is here on the Rich Eisen show. Have you talked to the people who prepare footballs for whichever quarterback you so choose to be your starter this fall? Have you gone through this process to make sure nobody's doing anything crazy?
We do. Every spring, when Brett came in, we switched to a Wilson football, the NFL football, and then this summer I brought a bunch of different different types of footballs in to see what our quarterback's like. We're sticking with the Wilson football. The NFL football is by far the best football to throw. I need to go back and check what the NCAA guidelines are in terms of PSI. I don't know. I don't think that kids at the age that I coach now really think that much about it. They throw me a ball and I'll throw it. And so I don't think it's a big deal at our level.
Last time we chatted, we didn't know where Brett Hundley was going. If I told you Green Bay, then would you have been surprised?
I would have been very surprised, but now that I look back on it, I think it's an ideal situation for him. To be able to be coached by Mike McCarthy, Tom Clements, who's the quarterback coach, work with Aaron Rodgers, probably sit there for a couple of years, and they'll probably trade him and get some value for him, and he'll be ready to go. I think it's a great situation. I talked a lot about the character of Brett Hundley, and I think this is a great story to indicate it. I call him on Monday morning after the draft, expecting to reach a very unhappy, disappointed young man. It's 8 a.m., and I say, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm watching film." What are you watching? He said, "I'm watching the Green Bay Packers offense." And so coming off of what was a disappointing weekend, Monday morning, 8 o'clock, he's in there getting ready for minicamp. And I think that kind of is an indication of why I think he'll be successful at some point in the NFL.
So he was already in Wisconsin, or was he here in Southern California?
He was in UCLA, in our offices. He has a key to the quarterback room, and he was in there, and he had our video guy on Sunday set up Green Bay film for him so he could go back and watch it.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's how he is.
And so who is going to be your quarterback this week?
It's going to be one of four guys.
By the way, that was the same laugh I've gotten from your dad asking him similar questions.
How about it? Speaking of my dad, you want to hear something?
Sure.
This is going to blow you away. He turns 80 on Sunday.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he doesn't look like it.
Is he going to celebrate by going to a
He
movie?
is not going to celebrate. He's pissed that I'm even coming over. 80, no one's coming over for my birthday. No, I'm having a birthday. What?
Right. I love that. So who is going to be your quarterback this fall?
I think it's going to be one of four guys.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the competition is wide open.
The competition is wide open. All four did a really nice job.
Now,
spring.
when you hear Everett Golson is going from Notre Dame to Florida State, is this something that, let's say, a college coach, maybe not yourself, if you go into living rooms in the future and you are competing with, say, somebody who accepts Everett Golson in a fifth year, do you say to a parent, hey, you might want to send your kid elsewhere because look what happened to whichever kids that they had there when Everett Golson came in.
Yeah.
Is that something that might be?
Probably. Yeah, probably. You know, I just believe in kind of growing your own, cultivating your own talent. There was a lot of speculation that we might be interested in Everett Golson because we do have a young quarterback group and we have a very veteran team, but we never even talked about it. I don't want mercenaries on my team. I want guys that grew up on our culture and understand what we're all about. I think that when you bring in a fifth-year guy, especially at a position like quarterback, he has too much influence on guys that I want to have influence on. Our staff wants to have influence on our other players because we're trying to, in order to have sustained success in my estimation, you have to build a culture. When you bring in mercenaries, I think you fracture that culture. So I think Everett is a great quarterback. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher disagrees with me, and he's won a national championship. I haven't. So, you know, that's just my feeling.
Well, because I love you and we have your back here. I want to make sure you're not accusing him of. When you say mercenary, that means money.
No,
But I want to say, here's what I think I know where you're going with this. It does have the feel of a free agency type maneuver that you would see at the higher level of the sport, where normally you in the college ranks are plugging holes with kids from the high school ranks.
Right.
You're normally not plugging a hole in your roster potentially with somebody else that's got 4 years of experience at the level.
Yeah, I don't think in any way, shape, or form there was anything sneaky with that. It's a re-recruitment is what it is. And Florida State's not going to do anything that they shouldn't do to get Everett Golson there. But when I say mercenary, I mean bringing a guy in that hasn't been with you and kind of giving him the reins to your team, and then he's out 1 year later. You know, we did it with an offensive lineman this year. And it was a good experience for us, but it wasn't a quarterback. And the guy we brought in was impactful on our team, but I really vetted him, and I had a great feel for the type of person that he was, and I knew he'd fit our culture. But we weren't ready to do that at quarterback. I like the guys that we have. I think they're going to grow up and become great, great players. And so I feel very comfortable with the way we handle it. I've
got Jim Mora of UCLA right here. When you were in the pros, did you ever anything like what Gus Bradley just going through, drafting Jonte Fowler 3rd overall, and boom, kid goes down in one of the first snaps?
No, that's horrible. Poor Gus. I mean, he's had a tough go at it the first 3 years there, and he's a great coach, but you just don't expect those things to happen. And I think the NFLPA and the NFL have done a really nice job of kind of backing off on the amount of contact that you can have in a practice. But it's impossible to have a football practice without some contact, without movement. And I'm not sure if that was I know he was engaged with an offensive tackle when it happened, but I don't know that that was the reason it happened. But it's devastating. You know, you just made this huge investment in money because they're going to have to pay him because there's a good faith clause in the contract. You took your first pick and you picked a guy, you expected him to come in and help you right away, and now he's gone for a year. So it can be devastating, but it happens, and you've got to move through it. I feel really sorry for the young man. I know he'll come back strong, though. The way they handle these injuries now and the technology medically to get these guys back on the field is amazing. But you know, that's a sad, sad scene right there in your rookie mini. Of course, what's almost as sad is the look of that helmet, the two-tone. God, is that
it is multiple tone. I don't know.
It's just they voted that the ugliest helmet in all of football.
Is that right? It did look like they ran out of spray paint of one color.
You know, stop there.
Let's just stop right there. Let's go halfway up the dome. And I know you're tight with Dan Quinn.
Very tight.
You know, he's one of your successors. You're one of his predecessors there in Atlanta. How is he getting along down in Atlanta?
He's doing great. He's doing really well. I think he's going to do a tremendous job there. He's the right kind of guy. You know, I hired him out of Hofstra to be a graduate assistant at San Francisco back in the 90s, and we've stayed very, very close since. He was my assistant head coach in Seattle, and I think he's built for that job. I think he's going to have great success. He'll get that defense rolling now, and they've got a pretty darn good offense.
So the Hard Knocks finalists have been announced. Do you have the Hard Knocks finalists that are in the mix? Chris Brockman?
I thought Cleveland was one of them.
Well, I think Cleveland's tapping out for them, and they should.
They've had enough Hard Knocks.
Well, I mean, exactly. And Johnny Manziel's coming out of rehab. Yeah. Just let him be. You don't need a camera in his face.
Who are the finalists?
So who are the finalists? Who do you have for him?
Buffalo Bills.
Oh, Rex.
And Rex Ryan.
That'd be a good
and
one.
LaShawn McCoy. Washington Redskins.
Okay.
And the Houston Texans.
Those are the three finalists.
Those are the three finalists.
Yeah, I like Buffalo. I think Buffalo would be great.
Well, I mean, Hard Knocks won Emmys the year they did the Jets. Because, you know, Rex did his whole... Rex just took it over. It was the Rex Ryan show. But, you know, why don't coaches want it? Did you ever...
We did it last year.
Okay.
Pac-12 Network, can I mention them here?
Please,
we had a show called The Drive, and it really was Hard Knocks. We did it through the entire season. So each week we did a half-hour show on our football program.
But so many coaches are like saying, well, we don't want any part of it.
It can be very invasive if you allow it to be. Pac-12 was not invasive. As a matter of fact, they felt like family. It was a great experience for us. We were able to tell tremendous stories about our players, about our program. It was a great recruiting tool.
But it's not just Eddie Jamoke knocking on the door. This is NFL Films. Everybody knows who the NFL. And virtually every coach might know some of these camera men and women by name.
You know, it's interesting. I was really good friends with the Sables.
Sure.
And our family was. And Steve used to always try to get me to do Hard Knocks, and I was very resistant to it because I felt it was so invasive. After doing the drive on Pac-12 Network, I would reevaluate, and I actually probably would do Hard Knocks if I had full editorial control, which I did with the Pac-12 Networks. And because I thought and now in college it's a little different because you can use it as a recruiting piece.
Sure.
In the pros, you just have to be careful that you're not offending people, you're not making people look bad, you're not shining a poor light on your program, you're not divulging secrets. But it was for me, and Steve always talked about this. He's talked about.
Yeah, what was that conversation like?
Well, we talked about a lot of things. We used to go out to dinner at the owners' meetings, and he would talk about being mic'd on game day because that way you could leave your legacy. You could go back and show your grandkids.
This is what he's telling you?
Yeah, you know, because I didn't like to be mic'd, and I didn't want him in the locker room after games or before games. I was resistant to that. I wanted to kind of protect the sanctity of the core. Looking back, I wish I had heeded his advice and let more people in so that I could show my kids what it was like in the locker room. They could show their grandkids, hey, this was your grandfather when he was coaching New Orleans. So now that I'm at UCLA, we have cameras all over.
So Steve Sable was right, is what you're saying.
Well, of course he was right.
I know,
what
right?
was he ever wrong about?
I know.
The man was,
I'm with you.
Him and Ed, I mean, what they created was so amazing.
Well, and what you and your wife have created through this Count on Me Family Foundation is pretty awesome, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on as much as you have and continue, hopefully, you know, you will. And over $500,000 raised for the Jim Mora Count on Me Family Foundation. Is there a website people can go to?
It is countonmefoundation.org,
Okay.
and you can donate online. Or, you know, what I always tell people, and Shannon always tells people, is it doesn't have to be our organization. Pick something that is near and dear to your heart and give back. You know, and it doesn't have to be money. It's time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's energy. It's volunteering. It's, you know, the people that are watching this show, I mean, we all have the means to help somebody else in some way. And so that's what we always encourage.
Jim Mora of UCLA football here on The Rich Eisen Show. Thank you for being here. For the television audience, though, you're going to stick around. We're going to go over some of the golf swings we saw at your golf tournament, including one of a certain soon-to-be 80-year-old gentleman.
Okay.
That may not like the fact that we're breaking down his golf swing.
Or that we're calling an 80-year-old gentleman.
Yeah, true. We're treading lightly here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.